Hello and welcome to the Sofa here at the World Water Week in Stockholm. My name is Eric Paglia. And in this session, we'll learn about a public-private community partnership framework implemented by SNV together with the government of Kenya, which leverages private sector participation to address the challenges of water service delivery to rural areas. To discuss this important initiative, I'm joined by Ismail Shaiye, Chief Executive Officer of Water Sector Trust Fund in Kenya. We have David Gashui Wanyoike, Senior WASH Advisor and Program Manager at the Netherlands Development Organization, and Markus Tuukkanen, Director for Business Development at Kauko International, Finland. Gentlemen, welcome to the Sofa.
Thank you.
Very nice to have you here. Now, Ismail, what's the government of Kenya doing to improve rural water services management?
Thank you, Eric, for the good question. Traditionally, rural water infrastructure development requires a lot of capital. It's quite expensive. And for us, and I think if you look at the economy of scale, depending on the approach that you take, the commercial viability is one of the key aspects that we really consider. And considering that, we felt that we had all the ingredients in place to do the infrastructure. The government has set up Water Sector Trust Fund in the reforms of 2002 as part of an entity that will reach out to the rural poor, the underserved, so that they can also access water services. But that said, we realized that in the midst of that there were some challenges. And the challenge for us is not just the infrastructure, but it's how you manage that infrastructure. And to me, that's a very important component of governance. So what happened was we were confronted with two issues of sustainability. One was the capacity issue, where the rural entities could not actually manage efficiently and effectively the infrastructure that we developed. The second one was the operational cost. There's a saying that the water is not free. It was from that point that we actually partnered with and came up with a solution with the SNV Netherlands to see how can we come up with a model that will work for us. And thank you to David and his team. It was through that partnership that we developed this concept called Public-Private Community Partnership, and it has really worked us for well. Yes.
Excellent. Now, David, what makes the Public-Private Community Partnership framework a unique and effective approach for rural settings in particular?
Thank you, Eric. Firstly, we believe that it's the government duty. They are the bearer of progressive realization of human rights to water and sanitation. However, we think that government should not go about by themselves to deliver this service. So we partnered with the government of Kenya to look at the challenges in rural water. And we had two objectives. One was to try and strengthen water service delivery in this part of the areas. Then the second was to make a business case, that these are financial viable projects and that could attract private sector. These two tasks were not easy. So what we did and what made this PPCP approach unique was that we had a consultative approach. So we engaged all stakeholders, right down from the district level to the national level, to think around what were the consumer preferences for consumption of water. We also looked at alternative management models, and the feedback that came about from these consultations led to the development of the 5 models. These 5 models were the private operator, the lease operator model, the operation and maintenance service contract, the delegated management model, and the professional manager model. Over and above that, we looked at providing technical assistance to each of these stakeholders so as to successfully deliver it. We supported the consumers to understand the need for consuming clean and safe drinking water, so it was more of an awareness creation initiative. We supported the public sector to procure, provide oversight, regulatory oversight, and to license these private operators. And for the private sector, we sought for management expertise, technology, and to leverage finance from the market. Thank you.
Now, Ismail, what's been the impact of this PPCP framework on your organization's role in increasing rural population access to water supply services delivery?
Thank you, Eric, for that interesting question. As David mentioned, we had when we were trying it out, anything that you're testing, you can only see the results when the rubber hits the road. And for us, where the rubber hit the road was when we had 3 consulting firms. 3 consulting firms actually joining and actually leaving their consulting firm and becoming private water sector operators. The other one was when we had an urban water company that actually took the initiative to expand from urban to rural. We got the urban right, but rural was a little bit difficult. So to see that from an urban company, that was very good. The other one was a community-based water service provider, seeing the commercial viability in rural and registering with our regulator and actually implementing the same. For us, those were key elements that we saw in the piloting. That said, the other aspect for us that was also key was the aspect of not only now those results, but us now taking the initiative to mainstream within our programming. And that was really key. How do we do that? We trained our staff. That was one aspect. 2, we trained the board that actually manages the fund. That was also key. But we also took the initiative. We take sustainability very seriously. So we usually have our regulator has this MAGI impact report. We have MAGI insight report as a fund because we follow the money. So through our operation monitoring system, we developed sustainability index. That sustainability index was very helpful for us to see, is the system working? How effective is it? Are these rural companies, rural models, are they generating money? Those were some of the elements that we looked at, and we have realized from that MAGI insight report that actually 60%, there was that 60% increase for the entities that were using the PPCP, the Public-Private Community Partnership. We realized a shoot of 60% increase. And we realized that was as a result of the flexibility that just David mentioned. You can actually, how they say one size does not fit all. We were able to break that silo because the way the 5 models are set up, you can easily tailor make it to an entity. So that for us was very crucial, and we realized that the result that we got was actually promising. And right now we have actually mainstreamed it within the programming in our investments. Yeah.
Markus, you want to add on that?
Well, we are private sector integrators. We can really bring in the different parts, not only the technology, but the management, for example, the training, all the things are needed for holistic solutions. One good example outside Kenya is in Nepal, where private sector has been developing the concept, negotiating with the financiers, really building and bringing in the expertise, compiling the dream team, roughly 12 different kind of organizations from Finland. And in this case, we are focusing on urban water supply. But like Ismail mentioned, that the urban water supply company or service provider can also take these kind of satellites. They can take areas outside their normal service area, where they are professionally managing the area and providing quality services. And with our project, we can provide a master planning, which is really a tool for the water supply company to do this. But when we are working in these kind of cases, like we are also working in similar in solid waste management in Uzbekistan, we really need the public sector to be the enabler in these kind of projects.
Now, David, what has been the main result of implementing PC or the PPCPs in Kenya?
Thank you, Eric. Based on the implementation of this program, we saw 24 communities adopt this model. We saw a significant increase in their revenue collections. There was a reduction in their operation and maintenance cost. Overall, there was improved governance. And of course, that led to over 250,000 people consuming clean and safe drinking water. For us, the most interesting aspect was how much private sector finance we leveraged. We were able to leverage over $50,000 in domestic private capital for these particular schemes. Yeah.
Very good. Ismail, yes. Do you want to add up on your experiences in terms of the results that you've witnessed so far?
Absolutely, and I think when you invest in something like that as a fund, for us we do investment, and the results that our partner mentioned were key. And I can tell you that we started with 10 counties because of the mainstreaming aspect within our programming. Other than the pilot, we can now say that we have 47 counties in Kenya. We are already at 27. 20 more to go. And that will give us the better results when we do the future impact evaluation that we plan to do. That is one. The second one for me was, we did not plan this, but it coincided when we were doing, I think Kenya sector, the water sector reform was started in 2002. We have a lot of countries in Africa, from Botswana to Rwanda to Uganda to Nigeria. Actually, the other day, Senegal were there to benchmark with us. We are at the center in Africa. We always say that we are the gateway to East and Southern Africa. And a lot of our partners come and partner with us. So we did our sector reform again in 2016. So with the rules and the guidelines that we have developed on the PCP, it came in the right time when we were doing the reforms, and we were able to pick them up and actually also mainstream within our legal framework. So we are reaching more counties. We were able to put them within our legal and policy framework. And right now we are developing guidelines with our regulator. It should be somewhere around in Stockholm today, to see how we can. That was one area. We got the urban areas right, but rural Kenya was something that we really wanted to do together. And right now it has helped us actually to also develop the rules of the game for rural Kenya. With that now, the investment that we have, we closely invested $4.2 million into rural Kenya. We can now see the results, and we are reaching close to 1.5 million Kenyans so far with that investment. So we can see it's working, and we want to see how we can continue. But we're not saying that that is just one element within the governance on sustainability that we want to see us as a country that we can reach. Yeah.
So the idea is to expand this further in rural Kenya, and then also bring it to other countries in sub-Saharan Africa as well?
Absolutely. And for me, what is very important is seeing is believing, Eric. There's one thing to have something in papers and in theories is very important, but we also have, partners in civil society who are doing business in Kenya. So us as a government, what we are saying is, if they have solution, they will share with us. We're not saying it's perfect. There's always that room for improvement. And I think the initiative that we have started with SNV, to me, that is what a good partnership looks like. And I'm so happy to have worked with David and his team and their office to make sure that we have realized that as a country.
Could you perhaps say, this partnership you're referring to here between SNV and the government of Kenya and your private firm, Markus, how does these sort of partnerships come together? Is it through personal contacts?
Eric, I like using the word, because of the part of the country where we come from, forced marriage is not good. There has to be that willingness. And I always say from the government side, we are supposed to be open to new ideas. And I believe that when we sat down with the private sector, we sat down with the civil society, there are good ideas from both sides. And the bottom for me, the buck stops with the government. What gives the government legitimacy is that service delivery. Our citizens will only feel you when they know that you're providing service, the healthcare, education, water. That is the time that you can say you're a government. Otherwise, you can't consider yourself a government when those basic rights are not provided. And for us in our constitution, Article 43 and 42, it's very clear. One of the rights is the right to provide clean water for our citizens. And we can only achieve that with this kind of partnership that we have in the table here.
Very interesting. Now, David, what takeaways can be drawn from this PPCP experience, especially for sub-Saharan countries with similar rural contexts like Kenya?
Thank you, Eric. I think just to add to what Ismail is saying, PPPs are not panaceas. However, we did observe some key takeaways. First of all, buy-in from the community and the local government was quite critical, especially at the early stages, because we needed to define the role of private sector. So we created interventions around conflict resolution, creating awareness, and we feel that this is one of the key takeaways for this. Secondly, we feel that the participatory nature of this approach is quite critical. We engaged all the stakeholders at every stage, mostly just to build the confidence into seeing the role of private sector. Thirdly, to address the financial conundrum, we looked at blended finance. As you know, commercial water projects are deemed as less viable. So we used very targeted grants, mostly for infrastructure, to try and de-risk some of the investments so that's to make the business case more viable for private sector. And we believe, as Ismail has mentioned, that this kind of partnership and clarity in the roles and responsibilities for each party is quite critical into making it work. As I said again, this is not a panacea, but we do believe that we have some good lessons that could be shared to other countries with similar contexts. Thank you.
Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us here on the sofa and sharing your experiences with the successful PPCP framework, and good luck expanding it in Kenya and in other parts of rural Africa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks for watching here on the sofa. Stay tuned for more sessions throughout the World Water Week.